Namaste. Good morning to all of our colleagues in India and good afternoon to those in Australia. Welcome to all of you on this really good discussion forum on Make in India, the shaping the future of industry through smart manufacturing. Can I begin first by acknowledging the traditional owners of the land on which we're gathered here in Australia today, in every state and territory, and pay my respects to their elders past and present. I also extend that respect to Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islanders people here today. It is a great pleasure for me as the National Chair of the Australian India Council to be able to moderate this session today. And you can see my profile on the screen there, which gives you the background of who I am and what I'm doing. So just by way of context, today is really a discussion forum where my colleagues and I will have a dialogue on this very important issue, as well as doing a bit of brainstorming as well. And what we're going to be looking at is the 6 national manufacturing priorities. And we'll also have an opportunity to take questions and look at everything from smart manufacturing to mechanisms that harmonize standards to collaborative strategies. By way of context, the Australian India Business Council was established over 33 years ago, and we're the only premier non-profit organization with the mission to promote trade and dialogue between India and Australia through nurturing and maintaining close relationships in both Australia and India with federal and state and local government agencies to diplomatic corporations and industry bodies. This discussion forum is part of that business to business exposure and is really a very important part of our role with the simple performance indicator of increasing the trade and investment between Australia and India. So without further ado, I shall call upon our Victorian President, Ravneet Pawar, to introduce this discussion forum and take us through the next phase of it. Over to you, Ravneet.
Thanks, Jim. Good morning and good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the people on the discussion forum. It's an absolute pleasure to be a part of AIBC and specifically AIBC Victoria, because we are living in very interesting times, and the relationship between India and Australia is only going to get better as we speak. I've got the Victorian Commissioner here, and I have no doubt that with her continued effort, Victoria and India are going to be working much more closer as we progress into 2021 and beyond. Dear friends, advanced manufacturing basically is a very, very important part of what comes in terms of collaboration with India. Recently, the Australian Prime Minister announced 1.5 billion in a new funding to be invested over 4 years in modern manufacturing strategy to make Australian manufacturers more competitive, resilient, and scale up. Now, that dovetails very well with what India is talking about. The Make in India initiative in the context of smart manufacturing in India is promoting adoption of Industry 4.0, the new buzzword for combination of industry and the current Internet of Things, technology, smart manufacturing, and so forth. The Make in India initiative was launched by the Prime Minister of India in 2014 and has ever since got a lot of focus and attention from industry, academia, and government. This initiative is driving investment, fostering innovation, developing skills, protecting intellectual property, and building best-in-class manufacturing infrastructure in India and with its partners. So this is a unique platform today where we have people that matter in this sector. We've got people from the Industry Advanced Manufacturing Growth Center. We've got people from L&T, which is a leading organization in India. We've got the Australian Industry Group Chief Executive Officer. We've got the Victorian Commissioner. And we've also got our academic support from Deakin University, Professor Bhaskaran, to talk about what can be done across sectors to ensure that we are providing solutions to smart manufacturing as we go into this very, very interesting future. Today's discussion forum is about shaping the future of industry through smart manufacturing. It is in collaboration with Australia, India Business Council Victoria chapter and the chair of Australia-India Business Council for manufacturing technology. And I'm very interested to see what comes out of it. And it will be quite interesting if we can put together a paper of this discussion forum for both Australia and India to consider next steps for engagement in this specific area. Without taking much of time further, I would sort of now like to invite, give it back to Jim, I think, to actually take the discussion forum forward. I think we should keep it fairly relaxed, engaging, interactive, with viewpoints coming from different people, so we can put together something more substantial as recommendations.
Thanks, Ravneet. And the idea of a paper is a good one. And can I also thank you for lifting the profile of Victoria in the trade and investment with India. And can I now, on that very good note, ask our National Industry Chair, Viswanathan, to share with us manufacturing in a glance. And you can see Vish's profile there on the screen. Over to you, Vish. You're there, Vish? Just unmute and you'll be in business.
Thank you, Jim, and thank you, Ravneet, and good morning and to people in India, and good afternoon or evening to people in Australia who joined us. As you rightly said, Jim, this is a discussion forum, informal discussion forum. That's, having said that, I think a few points which I would like to make in my short speech is the importance of the smart manufacturing today. As we speak, in fact, when I discussed this originally with Ravneet, and we were discussing, you know, what is the thing which it is topic of the day, and then we both of us felt there is not a better time now than now to talk about the smart manufacturing. So immediately we thought, you know, we'll just build this discussion forum, and then we are very thankful to all the panelists, especially people from India, Larsen and Toubro, all the gentlemen, Mr. Anand Pandey, Mr. Rakesh, and Narayan, have been very, very supportive on this. And also we had Mr. Ines Willox, and Michael Sharp is always a supporter of the Make in India campaign. And Michelle Wade, I must particularly thank you. And you're representing Global Victoria, and which is very, very timely now. And then we have Mr. Bhaskaran, and you know, this is the kind of panel which immediately has come together, and then so that we are going to discuss today on a number of points. The global smart manufacturing, if I say one thing, that future is going to be find and replace the word manufacturing with smart manufacturing. That's why it is going to be. The total manufacturing market for smart manufacturing is about 300, it has grown from $247 billion to in 2020 to 384.8 billion by 2025. That has been estimated by the industry experts with an annual growth rate of 12.4%. And within this, the growth in Australia Pacific region is going to be phenomenal because Australia is leading and this region is leading. The key drivers of this is everyone is adopting to the globally accepted industry standard 4.0. And then we already started automation in industrial processes, government and industry support. And we also have the technologies in place to reduce, which will reduce time and cost, which is the use of artificial intelligence, the Internet of Things, robotics, augmented reality, predictive analytics, 3D printing, and digital twinning. And this is becoming quite an acceptable I would say, practice, and the manufacturing industries in both in Australia and in India are going to be adopting this. Next slide, please. The next slide. Vishal. Vishal, next slide, please. Yeah. No, the previous. The second
Take
slide.
it back one. That's it.
Yeah. Now, within Australia, we have very, very interesting scenario. Recently, like Ravneet said, that the federal government has announced a big funding to become to make Australian manufacturers more competitive, resilient, and upskill, and to take on the world with their manufacturing programs in smart manufacturing, using smart manufacturing. And they are also going to be supporting the various advanced manufacturing centers by special grant projects. That shows the federal government commitment. But we are seeing very, very interesting things happening in Victoria. In the state of Victoria, we have, even in the recent budget, the Victorian government is allocated $10 billion for infrastructure projects, which will be using a lot of technologies like this smart manufacturing. And apart from that, they're also setting up an advanced manufacturing industry 4.0 hub in partnership with the Swinburne University of Technology. That is a new model of university and industry collaboration where the businesses and universities create technology and business strategy. So that is happening in Victoria. To assist them, the Victorian state, the Advanced Manufacturing Council, is helping to shape up the future of Victoria's advanced manufacturing industry to create jobs, upskilling, and boosting exports, and thus contributing to the economic growth. Next slide, please. No, previous year. So now we are coming to India. The picture of India is much more in a larger scale in terms of the spending in the manufacturing. And the government has allocated several billions of dollars moving forward in the next 4 or 5 years. And as Ravneet said, that Make in India, the visionary program of Government of India, has created a lot of growth in the Indian manufacturing industry, and which is now ready to take on the challenges post-COVID, and to bring back the GDP to the normal, and the futuristic levels. To upskill the Indian manufacturing companies, they also need to work with the Indian, the other global supply chain. And that is why it's becoming important that that kind of relationship with the Indian companies is very important with Australian businesses. So I'm sure that the companies like Larsen Toubro just got phenomenal expertise in construction and infrastructure. And recently they have won. I want to congratulate them for their winning the $4 billion worth of new project, tunneling project in a light rail project in Gujarat. And so they have a huge experience and expertise in this field using smart construction and infrastructure tunneling capabilities. And so a bit also we have the presence of the Australian industry group here, and we are with representing a number of industries. So there is a very good possibility that unless we partner, and it's becoming very important that we partner, and collaboration is the key mantra for the smart manufacturing for a better 2021 and beyond. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Vish. And as you can see now, the context has been set pretty well by Ravneet, and we also now got a broader picture of the context of this forum. And it's an appropriate time now to zero into Victoria as we look at the global Victoria perspective. And what better person than Michelle Wade, the Commissioner for South Asia? And can I say that as a current Director of Trade Investment in Queensland, Michelle was also very highly regarded in a previous role in Queensland. So Victoria is fortunate to have such a good expertise in Michelle. And you can see her profile on screen, and over to you, Michelle.
Great, thank you, Jim. It's wonderful to join you all here this afternoon in Australia and this morning in India. And thanks to AIBC for this opportunity. For those of you in India, the opportunity to hear from Vish as an expert, but also Michael Sharp and Ines Willocks, I don't think you can get better panelists. So thanks to AIBC, and likewise for me, one of the things I was excited about with today's session was to introduce our Australian participants to a great Indian company like Larsen Toubro. So thank you for all joining us today. I was thinking when Vish was talking about Industry Standard 4.0 about an event that I was at in Chennai last year for International Women's Day. I was in a school of underprivileged girls getting some support from government, and they were presenting on the future of work. And in fact, in this girls' school, probably 13 to 15-year-olds, they came out dressed as robots, labeled 4.0, which was Industry 4.0. So if, as the Australian participants here, you want to know how resounding the possibility is in India for Industry Standards 4.0, it's coming right through even at high school level in Chennai. I wanted to talk to you this afternoon through the lens of collaborative manufacture and how Indian and Australian partners are already engaging and how we can engage further to maximise each other's strengths. So for those of you who don't know Victoria so well, outside of the MCG, we are the epicentre of Australian manufacturing. It's actually a $26 billion industry employing more than 283,000 people in about 13,000 manufacturing firms. So from a total population of 6 million people, that means about 2 in 50 people in Victoria are working in manufacturing. It's a part of the fabric of Victoria and will continue to be so. So Ravneet mentioned the incredible boosts recently by the federal government, and Vish mentioned a very large infrastructure spend by the Victorian government. As part of our COVID recovery plans last week in the Victorian budget, we also mentioned another $120 million in announcements to strengthen our manufacturing industry. So for those of you across sectors, that's specifically towards MedTech Manufacturing Centre, Manufacturing and Industry Development Fund, just again to cement our status across a range of areas in manufacturing, and industry recovery and growth, particularly targeting manufacturing, clean energy and digital tech, as well as other things. But I thought I wanted to start from the basis that we already have some fantastic collaborations between Victorian companies and Indian companies in joint manufacturing. One of the really great companies from Victoria and India that's invisible to us all, but it is a global leader, is Ecotech. And it's one of the world's leading pollution monitoring companies. They're actually now part of the international conglomerate of ACOM, which is a French company. They do dust and air monitoring as well as noise monitoring throughout India. But more importantly, they manufacture parts of their equipment in India, and these are complemented with some of the more technical aspects and the IP protected aspects out of Victoria, and they're exported all over the world. Last week, we had our Governor of Victoria Export Awards, and one of the winners of those awards were Care Essentials. And they manufacture woolen material parts of their hospital blankets in southern India, and then they're finished in their Victorian factory. One of your favourite companies, or not so favourite companies for some of our Indian participants, depending on how you feel about cricket balls at the time, is Kookaburra. And they also manufacture parts of their sporting goods range in northern India. And then we've got Unibic. And I think Unibic's probably better known in India now than it is in Australia. In fact, in Australia, it's changed hands and become Modern Baking Company. But that company actually began in Victoria, and that alliance represents a transfer of knowledge, which has gone on to become one of India's strongest biscuit brands. So for those of you joining us from Australia, you can only imagine how many biscuits are sold in India, and to have been part of coming from Victoria, the knowledge that's formed one of the leading brands is quite incredible. But we also have manufacturing coming the other way from India. And the one that I wanted to mention today is our friends from Motherson's, with automotive companies all over the world doing componentry. They have a factory in Victoria which manufactures components for the trucking industry in Victoria. But notably pre-COVID, and actually through their Adelaide facility, they'd already pivoted towards medical, and that business has grown in Australia during COVID. So we're seeing, you know, not just strong relationships in manufacturing, but also a chance to grow and diversify in business. So in summary, there's great opportunities for collaboration and the chance to complement one another's manufacturing strengths. And we're keen to see India succeed in its Make in India ambitions and to grow its linkages to our already strong and growing advanced manufacturing sector in Victoria. Thanks very much, Jim.
Thanks, Michelle. Thanks for that. And it's also very encouraging to see the Victorian AIBC working collaboratively with you to add value to the state of Victoria. What a good perspective now to look at advanced manufacturing. And the scene has been set there by Michelle. And what better person to do this than Michael Sharp, the National Director of AMGC, and his profile will come over the screen, on the screen very shortly. And as that's happening, I will ask Michael now to share his perspective with us. Over to you, Michael.
Many thanks, Jim. It's great to be with you all here. Manufacturing is certainly on the move. Like never before, the whole world seems to be talking about advanced manufacturing. So this can only be good for all of us. And what we've found here in Australia is that it's no longer regarded so much as an industry sector, so much as it is a nation's capability. As Australians, what are we capable of producing? What are we capable of making, supporting ourselves, but then being able to export globally? And as we've heard from our previous speakers, one of the key drivers here is collaboration. We must work together more. We need to build global linkages, and what great support we have between our two great nations to grow these capabilities. And we've seen that come to the fore during the crisis. So we have some great companies in Victoria like Sutton Tools, a long-established family business who operate in Melbourne, but also have factories and facilities in India. And so there's some great work going on with that company, with advanced manufacturing of tool drivers and drill bits, specialised equipment, high quality, that can then be exported globally from Australia and from India. I think that's a great example of collaboration. Another Victorian member of ours at AMGC is a company called Osteng. And Osteng has evolved from the automotive sector to now partnering with startup companies out of our great universities and developing world's first technologies to send all around the world. Their latest technology is machinery that they're developing for green portable energy. And I think that we'd like to see our Indian partners think about how we can form some collaborations around this new technology. And I know that working with the Australia-India Business Council has already bared a lot of fruit. It's been terrific to connect our members at the Growth Centre with various clients of yours and members. And we know that this can only grow. So I certainly look forward to those opportunities. But finally, I think I wanted to share with you a real story of collaboration during the start of the pandemic. And the Prime Minister's office contacted us and said, it looks like we're going to need ventilators. And so we all knew that that was coming through in the early weeks of March. And so very quickly, we were able to support the efforts to get 30 local manufacturing companies together. Some of these companies had never known each other before, but suddenly 30 companies working together to build a very complex bit of equipment in this ventilator. And it was built with great innovations in Victoria. And I'm very pleased to say we've now made over 2,000 of those units. Thankfully, they're going to the national medical stockpile because, as we know, in Australia, we've come through this quite well. It's been handled very well here in this country, which is terrific. But now those 30 companies collaborating, some for the first time, are now looking at the opportunities for global export opportunities and global partners in these supply chains. So this is the opportunity for both our nations moving forward, is developing these longer term relationships, talking about these case studies and coming together like we are this afternoon to look at the opportunities for moving forward. Now really is the time to advance manufacturing, and I know that we can do this better together. Thanks for having me.
Thanks very much, Michael. That was a very, very good sharing of your perspective, particularly the supply chain and that very practical example you gave. And with that context now, it's actually appropriate to look at what the Australian industry perspectives are. And I'd like to ask Ines Willocks, who's the CEO of the Australian Industry Group, to share with us his perspective on this. And as the screen comes on board, you will see that Ines has a very, very impressive background in there. And over to you, Ines.
Thank you, and good afternoon or good morning to you, wherever you may be. It's great to talk to you. It's after 5 on Friday evening in Australia, so we're getting close to relax time, but it's always very positive to talk to India and about India at any time of the day or the week. It's always interesting to be on a panel with Michael as well. He always seems to be in his car when he's talking, and always does a great job. Thanks for inviting me today. The Australian-Indian relationship is, of course, a strong one and goes back a very long way, and there is much more that we can and should be able to do together, particularly when it comes to collaboration, that big word around industry and partnerships. And I hope that this session today will help clear the path for greater collaboration going forward. Put it this way, the future for us in Australia, the future of manufacturing is smart. And as was alluded to earlier, our federal government has outlined a pathway after much consultation with industry and industry groups around the strategic priorities for manufacturing, looking at key areas of the economy where Australia has competitive advantage or needs to develop capability. And one of the big lessons, Michael talked about ventilators, but one of the big lessons for Australia was that that we needed to build more resilience into our industry, more self-reliance into our industry, but also more collaboration and the spread of risk. We had to diversify, build new supply lines and supply chains, build new markets, build new skills, build new products, and build more capability. That was the takeout. Easy to say, hard to do. There are a range of issues that we could look at and talk about in the Australian-Indian context, but there are some fundamentals that we need to look at, including investment, trade access, and standards collaboration. The role of standards can never be underestimated as part of this conversation about how different economies link up and grow. As I said, all manufacturing is smart now, and that's what the future has to be. The COVID crisis has perhaps sped up those trends towards smarter manufacturing. We talked in Australia a lot about the digital economy for a long time. Now we're starting just to talk about the economy. Take out the word digital, because everything is digital and it's increasingly digital in the context of the development of that capability. At AI Group, we're involved in a whole range of programs which are about enhancing industry and developing industry. These include the Entrepreneurs Program, the Skills Development Program, the Industry 4.0 Advanced Manufacturing Forum, the Innovative Manufacturing CRC, Cooperative Research Centre, and the Industry 4.0 Higher Apprenticeships Program, developing the skills of the future. When I talked about smart manufacturing, what did I mean by that? What I mean by that from an industry context is two things. It includes cutting edge manufacturing industry and the development of those in Australia and elsewhere, or those with connections to Australia, and the development of cutting edge processes as well. But it's also, and importantly for us, the transformation of what you might call traditional or established manufacturing and industry. Our slogan for many years, among other slogans, has been that all manufacturing should and could be advanced. There is no reason for it not to be. Innovation occurs anywhere. It occurs serendipitously, and it leads to enormous developments in improvements in process and product development. And we should encourage that. That should be one of our hallmarks here, is to encourage all industry to advance and to become advanced. Manufacturing and industry is also becoming global. The days of one product being made in one place are pretty much over. Product now is sourced from all around the world. Inputs are brought in from around the world and then re-exported. Inputs are provided from a whole range of sources. So globalization is a fundamental dynamic to the future of manufacturing. And so is the continuing rise of emerging economies, key parts, key drivers of that manufacturing growth. And that should be the case. There are, of course, legitimate concerns about impacts of the transitions. And there are always discussions around domestic sovereignty, which are always interesting to have, around supply chain risk. As I've said, all of those have been emphasised in many ways by COVID and by the general geopolitical situation that we live through. But we need to develop capability that is global. A term or a phrase we like is smart sovereignty in Australia, being good and proficient at what we do, doing it well, doing it to the best of our capability. I think smart sovereignty is a term that you'll hear much more of into the future. We don't think and we don't advocate that we should do everything in Australia. We can't and we shouldn't. But what we do, we should do well, and we should have the capability, much like what Michael talked about with the ventilators, to pivot to new sectors, new parts of the economy, new product. And that's sort of an ambition that we have at the moment. One of the big risks in Australia is supply chains, as I mentioned before. It's a big risk to Australian industry. We're seeing it now. That risk to supply chains can come in different ways. It can come in lack of access to product. It can come in lack of access through our ports, something we're seeing at the moment, difficulties there. So supply chain risk is an issue that all manufacturers have to face up to and confront. We have a very diverse range of very diverse manufacturing sector, which is subject to transformational forces. And this can be right across our economy, from what you might call traditional manufacturing, as I mentioned, through to some leading cutting edge companies like CSL, like Cochlear, like ResMed, who are all world leaders in their field. We have very strong capability in medicines and cosmetics, in precision tools. The list goes on and on of what we're good at and what we can do. What we are now trying to do is to transform those successes into sustainable, long-term, viable industry capability. I just want to finish up by saying that there are clear areas for collaboration between Australia and India, and Australian and Indian companies. You've heard already around, like the example of Motherson and others. There's a whole range who are here in Australia. And I've got to say, Australian business can and should do more to work into the Indian market. It's a challenge for us, but it's a challenge that we should take up with gusto, particularly given the current geopolitical situation. A challenge is, to be honest, is that for us all on this conversation is that, and I have to be honest about this, is that India has chosen not to join RCEP. We wish that it had joined RCEP, which basically means that at the moment India is sort of separated from a big part of the region when it comes to the rules of architecture around supply chains, around digital flows, investments, and the movement of people. And we hope that those bridges can be bridged, and we'd like that closer relationship. The digital component is crucial, and I'll just finish with this. and where we can collaborate. As I said, Industry 4 is about connection. It's about connecting machines. It's about connecting devices. It's about connecting equipment, no matter where their location or its location may be. And that's why it's important that agreements, going back to things like standards and the like, which can lead to that digital collaboration, are so important. And that's what will advance the relationship between both countries when it comes to the development of capabilities around Industry 4.0. Thank you for the opportunity to talk today, and I'm very happy to participate in the panel discussion and conversation thereafter. Thanks for having me.
Thanks very much for that, Michael, and for sharing your perspective with us, and just reminding us of collaboration, connections, and of course the supply chain risk and smart sovereignty. And as we take that as a context, it is now appropriate in this forum to focus now on the Indian perspective in terms of advanced manufacturing in Indian construction industry and infrastructure engineering. And so let us kick this off with Rakesh Arora, who is the Head Proposals Heavy Civil Infrastructure at L&T Construction. And you can see Rakesh's profile on the screen. And he's well placed to kick off the Indian perspective. So over to you, Rakesh.
Thanks, Jim, for this wonderful introduction and providing me the opportunity to speak in this esteemed forum. I have a small presentation which is basically to introduce what Larsen Toubro is doing in India, and we are working in few international overseas operations also, basically in Middle East, as far as construction is concerned. But for information technology part, if you ask me, we are working all over the world in almost all the countries, including Australia. So here in Larsen Toubro, we say that it's all about Imagineering. So whatever we can imagine, we do engineering to convert it into the reality. We are into different kind of businesses. There are few photographs of good projects we completed already. And in the next slide, I will explain which are these different arms of business. Yeah, we can go to the next slide. See, L&T is a professionally managed company with, you can say, the revenue of $21 billion US, and we have a very good credit rating and a very good market capture. The shareholding, if you see, of L&T is a kind of unique structure. You can see here the Indian government financial institution is holding around 22% of the shareholding, and then L&T employees trust is holding 13.7%. So the employees are also working here as the owners of the company, and we are giving our best to the company for its growth and in the business. So different business vertical as well as I was informing. So we are into construction business in mainly these fields of building and factories, transportation infrastructure, heavy civil infrastructure, water and effluent treatment, then power transmission and distribution. Particularly for power transmission and distribution and water effluent, we are working in many countries. But for other businesses, we are working in few countries apart from India. Then we have L&T Power, L&T Heavy Engineering and Defense Engineering, which are into more of manufacturing and electrical and automation. Further, we have few subsidiaries like L&T Hydrocarbon, then financial services, information technology, which is globally, they are working in almost all the countries. Then infrastructure SPVs are there. Then we are into L&T Reality and some other manufacturing units as with regard to fabrications and all. Yeah, next. So now when we say that we are mainly representing the construction business here, so how it is, you can say, related with the manufacturing. So nowadays in construction, we are doing more of modular construction kind of thing. So it's more kind of manufacturing we are doing, like for say tunnel lining, we are using concrete segments. And for bridge, we are using the concrete segments. For buildings also, all are modular walls, columns, beams, and slabs are there. Then some structural steel constructions are also there. So it's more of a kind of manufacturing, like in factory, we are manufacturing the units and then assembling it at a construction site. Previously, everything was done like in situ concrete was there. So thereby we are improving the productivity and then saving the time of the tune of say 30 to 50% time is being saved in this manner by converting into a modular kind of construction. And so the resemblance with the manufacturing is coming into construction also now. We'll go to the next slide. So by doing this smart construction, nowadays, by using the Internet of Technology, the digitalization has come into picture for improving the workman productivity, for improving the P&M utilization. P&M is plant and machinery, so construction equipment which we are using for construction, for improving the utilization as well as productivity of those equipment, and then the material management also. So these digital initiatives involves like RFID in case of workmen, then Internet of Things in case of equipment, and then various apps, mobile apps for improving the safety and security, and for improving the material management and the tracking of the material. Next. Then we are using the building information modeling for improvement and for monitoring the safety at work sites, which is giving us benefits like remote monitoring of safety functions, better visualization of the safety issues, then increased safety preparedness, minimizing the downtime due to safety issues, then assurance of clearance and access availability, then a reduction in the documentation, and thereby using the manpower more efficiently. So by using this, by sitting in headquarters also, we can monitor a remote site which is hundreds or thousands of kilometers away from headquarters. And next. And in the construction project, like if it's a remote project also, we can monitor by sitting in office the production of the concrete at the batching plant and the transportation and placement of the concrete by using the transit mixers and placing equipments. So here in this picture, if you see some red color transit mixer, so if I come to know by sitting in headquarters or by sitting in my office that this particular equipment has not moved for a while, so we can immediately touch base with the operator or driver, and then we can see that it's moving all the time. So it is improving the utilization of the equipment, and it is utilizing the productivity also, improving the productivity also. Next. And then further, like these segments which you have seen for the tunnel lining or for the construction of bridges, this is like a factory setup. We have a set of molds where we are doing all the functions in a factory manner and producing the segments. So we call it casting. Then we are stacking it at a big yard and then transporting to the work site for final erection. So these all can be monitored by a computer or a mobile app also. So further, we are getting good result in terms of like we can track or we can trace all the segments where we have placed when it is manufactured. Every segment is having a unique identification mark. Then we can do a proper planning and casting for the casting yard function. Then stacking and retrieval as per the construction sequence helps in quickly locating the segments in the storage yard. It's maintaining the records of storage. Location of the segment becomes very easy in this manner. Next. Similarly, this was as far as concrete is concerned. Now we are coming to the fabrication term. So it's a Fabri CAD, a good smart nesting tool, which can be used for useful structural fabrication at site. It is helping in reducing the material wastage. It's a very good tool to evaluate the vendor quotation and then track the quantity of the dispatch structure, advanced over the other nesting tools. Next. So by using this tool, if you have a, say, structural steel plate, we can optimize the cutting in a manner that wastage is minimum. And it can be done in a very faster manner to improve the productivity also. Next. So by using this tool, we can manage various projects, and within a project, various jobs, multiple jobs can be, you can say, monitored and managed in a same manner, and that's too with a better productivity and better material optimization. Next. So by using this Internet of Things and the digitalization, so much improvement which is coming in the construction field also, which is resulting in the safer operation, then higher accuracy in work, then improved working conditions, improved productivity, cost efficiency has improved, then better decision making we can do. Environmental friendly, these all are things are there. Then enhanced security and better communication and teamwork is the are the good results here. Yeah, next. So this is all basically from our end as far as what new things we are doing in construction field to bring ourselves to the global standards, you can say, standards of safety as well as the quality. So this is all from my side. I'll now next give it to Mr. Jim for further. Thank you.
Thanks very much for that very, very good presentation. And you can see the synergies there with Ines Willock's comments, and also with Marcus Sharp and Michelle Wade, and that broader context that was set by Vish and Ravneet. And sort of what better way now to drill further down and ask Anand Pandey, who is the CEO of L&T Infrastructure and Engineering Limited. And you can see in his profile there, once again, it's a great team there at L&T. So over to you, Anand.
Hi, Jim. Hello. Good afternoon, everyone. So India and Australia both are good afternoon now. So continuing from the L&T construction, I will take it. We are a engineering design and consulting firm, another entity within L&T umbrella. So we are a specialized 400 team of 450 engineers or something like that. So next slide, please. Okay, so we are into the business. We are providing engineering design and consulting services for roads and highways, airports, railways, metros, ports, architecture, MEP, master planning, urban planning, environmental. So all kind of things related to primarily to transportation infrastructure. And we take the project from concept development to PMC contract. Detail engineering is done at BIM. Now, nowadays, if I go to from the construction, we are a backbone of the construction industry because we are providing engineering design and consulting services. How the smart manufacturing has entered into that. Now the concept has come through BIM technology. We can start from the concept development, or you can say from survey execution to detail engineering to the end life of the project. Same platform of BIM. Can you go to the next slide, please? So this is the BIM we are using. If we are creating the model at time of engineering design itself, 3D model, and the same base data is being used in 4D to visualize construction, even monitor the construction, manage the construction, even take up the quantities. And not only that, going beyond that, now the same model will be used for a long-term life management of the project. Not only construction is finished, it's finished. The same BIM integrated model will take to the life of the project. Like suppose it's a railway project or metro project. It's not only manufacturing, construction is done. When the operation goes, then also you need a recycle maintenance. Some parts needs to be replaced in 5 years. Some parts needs to be replaced in 20 years. Some parts need to be replaced in 1 year. And then there's a routine maintenance. So this platform of BIM, if we are using in the design with the objective of carrying the same model to the 60 years or 100 years life of the structure. So there, that's how the engineering, this smartness in our engineering design and consultancy has come. Like suppose there are thousands of elements which need to be replaced and repaired, and inventory is to be made. Or say if in a metro, in a depot line, metro train or railway coach is entering, with this system, you will know beforehand itself that how things will going to be operated and maintained. So the advantage of this capability and the BIM introduction is that right from engineering design to the construction management, to the cost control, then to the operation and maintenance, and maintaining the inventory, and even projecting the cost, creating a what you can say corpus or capex for a future replacement. So if you plan in the BIM 4D, 5D model that way in the BIM at the construction itself, it will take to that level. That is the fundamental change has come here. Apart from the what Mr. Arora has explained, to the construction industry itself, it is helping manufacturing. But here we are taking it much beyond. So to the operator, to the maintenance, and to the owner, for everybody the same model. Yes, but we have to smartly plan the thing. It's not like that today we have decided that we'll use this BIM only for construction, then tomorrow we start looking for the operation maintenance, then for the capex or replacement later. No, you have to plan from the day one that I'm going to use this BIM model, same model, till the end of the project. Accordingly, details have to be planned, and each and every nut bolt has to be put in there. Like for example, there may be hundreds of types of door knobs or door floor items to be included in the station or something like that, or in construction. So day one, you have to plan the detail, and the same has to be put in construction, cost, maintenance, and management. That's what I want to emphasize on this issue of the smart manufacturing point of view from engineering design and consulting firms. Next slide, please. So these are the structures. Now it is, look, it is a BIM. BIM is created, but if you can see it needs all maintenance. Like metro carrying, it needs continuous maintenance. These are the cables, they need continuous maintenance. So, and the planning has to be done from the day one. Next slide, please. So like these are the drawings. You can see through the drawings, we know each and every element marked already, like sewer manhole type. We call it a family. Power manhole, we have already created, and shape and details. It is already the part of the model. And at the time of construction team will use. At the time of operation and maintenance team will use. For the capex people and the people, they will use at the capex. And inventory also can be managed well. Next. So how it works, like all the informations and communication technologies are integrated into the system itself in the day one. So we include everything like operational services, network, integrity, property management, environmental management, energy management, intelligent traffic parking, building into automation management, geo information. So all things will be inbuilt in that part at that. Right. So construction, maintenance, and till the management, the whole thing is integrated into this. Next part. So establish the ultimately this, if you call it a overall digital project management, establish a digital environment for all project information, increase collaboration speed and quality with frictionless information exchange and paperless workflow. So it starts from design work sharing to BIM review, then bid management means contract management, then construction management, then work packaging, then completions and handover. Then the same model can be taken even beyond that by operation and maintenance and the future planning of the capex. Next. So these are the companies with whom we have done the various projects, started with that. So next. So this comes to the end of my presentation as engineering designing consulting firms, how we bring the smartness to the whole system, right from concept to the construction, then maintenance, then replacing the all the assets in the future. Thanks.
Thanks very much for that, Anand, and for the very comprehensive presentation and the linkages that fit in very well with the forum and some of the brainstorming we've been doing. It's now an appropriate time to introduce Narayan Manjunath Vernaka, who is the Manager Business Development for Heavy Civil and L&T for Infrastructure. And you can see there from his profile that he's very well suited to talking to us about business development. So over to you, Narayan.
Thank you, Jim. Very good evening to everyone there in Australia, and very good afternoon here in India. Let me thank AIBC, to invite us to this, esteemed forum to discuss on the smart manufacturing and things like that. So it has been indeed a pleasure to be here, and also thanks to Mr. Rakesh and Mr. Pandey to have supported me, especially for this forum. Taking Indian and Australian perspective, business perspective, I would like to enhance that L&T has been, delivering projects across the world, and the latest being the Motera Stadium, the world's largest cricket stadium, which we had an architect from Australia called Populous. So they had a very good collaboration with us in doing projects here. Similarly, we had been working with Worley Parsons in Riyadh Metro, and lately being the SMEC consultants, who are also based out of Australia. They are delivering some services for this high-speed rail project, which we have recently bagged, which is about $4 billion project. Having said that, I would like to emphasize that L&T is one of the capable companies to come and deliver projects in Australia, and we look forward to come and give some value addition to the industry through smart construction, as Mr. Rakesh Arora earlier mentioned. So we bring the technology and experience with us, and we look forward to come and deliver projects there. Thank you.
Thanks very much. I really appreciate those comments. And we now come to a very important part of the segment of this forum, and that, of course, is international partnerships. And what better person to talk to us about advanced manufacturing partnerships than Professor Bas Bhaskaran, the Pro Vice Chancellor for International Research Partnerships at Deakin University. Over to you, Professor. And you can see from that profile on the screen, he has extensive experience and insights in this area. Over to you.
Thank you, Jim. Thank you for inviting us to be part of this discussion. And Deakin University is probably a young university. We have only about 45 years, but originated from a city in Geelong. It's a regional city in Victoria. Just an example, Geelong is a traditional manufacturing industry. We had Ford, Alcoa, and various heavy manufacturing companies, but they all closed down. So the city has to transform from a heavy manufacturing based city to an innovative and type of manufacturing industry city. And Deakin University is an integral part of that transformation. What you see is head office in Geelong. It used to be the old wool stores in the Geelong waterfront, and that's been converted into a fantastic new facility for our School of Architecture, as well as the head office as well. The next slide. Right. So part of the transformation of innovative industries, we have turned into our original campus, which is in Warrampons, is about 10 minutes drive from the Geelong main city area, into an industry university partnership center, what we call it as a Geelong Future Economic Precinct. This is the single largest campus of any university in Australia. We had about 360 acres there, but we are transforming this campus into a partnership with industry and academia, and also converting this campus into a sustainable, energy efficient campus as well. What you'll see is along the periphery, we have several institutes, which is the Research Institute, where Center for Advanced Design Engineering, Frontier Materials, Applied Artificial Intelligence Institute. And also they have Carbon Nexus, which is the carbon fiber manufacturing plant. That's the only carbon fiber manufacturing plant in Australia. We produce carbon fiber for commercial purposes as well. And through that, we bring some of the innovative industry as well. And you'll see a company called Carbon Revolution is using the carbon fiber manufacturing, carbon fiber, and producing automotive wheels and supplying to Ford, Mustang, and Ferrari. It's produced startup as a startup company in Geelong, and now it's a full manufacturing company. And it's collaboratively worked with our Institute of Intelligent System and Research and Innovation, and bring simulation and modeling and digitized factory before it's expanded into it as well. And right at the corner, you'll see microgrid. We have a 26,000 solar panels producing solar energy supplying to the campus. And in the front end, you'll see that the Epworth Hospital, which is working very closely with the university in some of the innovative areas as well. Next one, please. So some of the key research strength we have within Deakin is AI and robotics, assisted living technology, VR, AR, and mixed reality, carbon fiber composite materials area, and also the advanced manufacturing, and all this applied into the infrastructure as well as the manufacturing sector as well. So one of the key aspects of Deakin is we work with the industry partners and produce commercial outcome as well. Next slide, please. So some of the examples we do in the advanced manufacturing is working with your training future graduates, future employees. You work with the new materials, anything from carbon fiber to natural fibers and different steel, aluminum. And we have a fantastic testing facilities to characterize and test all these new materials and properties. And we work with the new designs using different materials in different application. And also we work in new processes and so forth as well. So one of the key aspects of what I would like to give is the next slide, thanks. So we are working in partnership with Ford India, set up a consortium between university and industry, focusing on digital manufacturing. This originated from our Center of Excellence in Advanced Material Manufacturing with IIT Madras and IIT Hyderabad. And now we are working with Ford India, with other university partners in India, Manipal Institute of Technology, Vellore Institute of Technology, PSG College of Technology, and IIIT DM, as well as Sastra. You'll see that part of the digital manufacturing, we bring AR, VR, and virtual environment for testing, additive manufacturing, using artificial intelligence, machine learning, and data science to improve the processes and developing new methodologies. We use simulation analytics, digital twins, and on top of that, we bring the IoT sensors and robotics. So bringing all of these into the manufacturing industry in partnership with Ford India. Our relationship with Ford goes back to more than 25 years when Ford has an operation in Geelong, and we have been working with Ford through all sorts of development and application side of it as well. So our focus is work with industry partners in real term environment and real problems, and finding solutions who meets the future development as well. So thanks. So that's pretty much we do, and we are looking forward to partner with companies like L&T and other manufacturing sectors as well. One of the advantage of Deakin is we bring different disciplines together on a project based or industry sector based capabilities, and we work with our partners, and we bring partners to complement our skill gaps and work with the industry for the future as well. Thank you very much.
Thanks very much, Professor, for that very impressive view of Deakin University and that engagement with India. And it's also great to have your colleague as the president of the Victorian AIBC chapter. It's a very, very, very powerful combination. Can I now move to our dialogue session very specifically? And we're delighted to receive questions that have already come through. And can I say these questions that Vice President of Victorian Chapter Manjit Singh has picked up will be answered outside of this forum if we run out of time, and we'll all be too happy to do that. So if you are asking those questions and it's not answered during this session, it will be answered after the session. So let me kick it off. And the first question I'd like to ask is to Ines Willocks, the CEO of the Australian Industry Group. And if I could say, Ines, that the federal government has outlined 6 national manufacturing programs which reflect Australia's established competitive advantage or emerging areas of priority, namely the resources, technology and critical minerals processing, food and beverage, medical products, recycling and clean energy, defense and space. From your perspective, where do you see the opportunities in these areas for collaboration in the supply chain, the partnerships, and in innovative and industries in India with advanced manufacturing and capabilities? And I note your comments on supply chain risk management and smart sovereignty. Over to you, Ines.
Thanks, Jim. It's a good question. These were the initiatives that were alluded to earlier in the presentations, and they are priority areas that the federal government has focused on as a result of a lot of conversation with industry over the past 18 months or so around where industry and industry development needs to go in Australia. And in the end, these 6 areas were picked on as priority areas, not the exclusive areas that Australia will deal in, but these are priority areas, particularly for government funding around grants and the like. And there's a lot of focus on collaboration here within the program for business-to-business collaboration within the context. And part of the issue here for Australian business is building up scale. Scale of our SME, our small and medium-sized enterprises, and building up their capacity as well. So there'll be a lot of focus on building that scale as part of the examination of these 6 priority areas. Jim, I think the clear answer is, as we talked about supply chain before, and as I mentioned, there's a view that, a very clear view that we can't and perhaps shouldn't build everything in Australia, that this does provide the opportunity for global collaboration. We talked about globalisation. So in each of those areas, Australia already has some strengths or some competitive advantage. Space is a relatively new industry that we would focus on, but what's forgotten, for instance, is that up until the 1950s, Australia had the world's largest space program. And then, of course, NASA took over and off we went. Australia still contributed to the moon landing, as famously known. If I can recommend a movie to you all called The Dish, which is a very good Australian movie about that. But this is about rebuilding capacity. Clean energy, recycling is another one where Australia is really going to put a big focus on. So, and each of those areas, food and beverage. Food is about 30% of Australian manufacturing now is in the food sector, food processing, food packaging and the like. So look, Jim, the simple answer is anywhere and everywhere, I think, is the short answer. A lot of this focus in this area is about building Indigenous capability. But if you take the perspective that we can't do everything in each of these areas, there's going to be a huge need for collaboration as we really turbocharge these sectors of the economy. There is enormous opportunity for Indian business, both within India and coming to Australia to contribute expertise, knowledge, and the smarts in some sectors that and the capacity that we just don't have. So in short, going forward, particularly through from next year on, these are the 6 priority areas, and that's the areas we'll be jumping on, and we'll be looking for collaboration at an international and national context from there on in. So I would say everywhere is the short answer.
Thanks, Ines, for that comprehensive answer. And the Australia-India Business Council looks forward to working with the AIG in progressing this agenda. My next question is to Michael Sharp. And Michael, how important is standards in advanced manufacturing, and what steps must be taken for fast-tracking bilateral standards harmonization?
Sure. Well, here I am in the car, and some people call it a car, but since March I call this the mobile Zoom studio. So I guess we've all had to adapt, and what we've seen is Australian industry adapt also. So I talked earlier about the ventilator project. Companies have had to adapt in so many ways, from creating new medical products and the like. So that's the global change, constant change. What we developed was the Manufacturing Academy. So I would recommend for everyone out there to have a look at the Manufacturing Academy, where it's a privilege of mine to go around the country and walk the factory floors and meet so many different business owners. And on the Manufacturing Academy, they've been able to share their own story of how they're transforming their business today. One thing that doesn't change, though, is trust. And this is where standards become so important, because Australian products are trusted around the world. And as Australians, we're trusted globally. And so this is important when you're coming to standards, because if we're going to maintain that standard and even improve the products that we export globally, standards are vitally important. And I know during this pandemic, we've had to work very closely with the Therapeutic Goods Administration, the TGA, around various medical products and new entrants to the game, looking at the standards that they needed to maintain or even develop new standards for new products. So this is important, and of course it's important across nations too. So at the Advanced Manufacturing Growth Centre, we're collaborating with other industry partners and our members to develop new ways of increasing the standards and the availability of Australian products to the world.
Thanks very much for that. And before I get to the L&T team, let me ask Michelle Wade, just to sort of put this into the context, the Commissioner for South Asia. What are the emerging opportunities or challenges, if any, to advance manufacturing in post-COVID-19 environment in Victoria? Over to you, Michelle.
Thanks, Jim. It's a little bit like what Ines said. There's just so many sectors, but the ones that really stick in my mind at the moment is health and life sciences, where I mentioned that we've got additional government support to grow that sector, but such a strong medical and health sector. Advanced manufacturing, and in line with the presentation by Professor Bass, really interesting things happening in some of our universities, and Deakin in particular with their work on composites. But also I should mention an engineering precinct that we've got at Fisherman's Bend, and the move of University of Melbourne's engineering school. So I think the main thing is for companies to look at their strengths, and because of the depth of our manufacturing industry, we can sort of promote complementarities.
Thanks for that, Michelle. And I'd like to go to the L&T team, and as we come closer to the end of this very, very good dialogue forum, and ask what specific opportunities exist in Australia for Indian companies such as your group with smart construction or smart tunneling expertise. So let me now ask that question to our colleagues. Let me start with you, Rakesh Arora. Your comments?
There are ample of opportunities are available in all the areas, if I say, wherever L&T is involved in different kind of construction and all. But specifically the business which we represent within L&T is the heavy civil infrastructure and transportation infrastructure. To say that We are more interested in like metro tunnel projects, both in tunnels and then the railway projects, railway tunnels, and then elevated structures there, then bridges, roads, and then hydropower project also we are doing in that also some tunneling and some mining projects also we are into. To be very specific, Narayan, who is our business development manager, is having a big list of prospects, you can say. Specifically, he can tell you few of the major projects which we want to get involved.
Okay, Narayan, you want to do that? Yeah.
Yeah, of late we have been saying, especially past 3 years, have been tracking Australian market, and it's good to see that Australia is coming up with various infrastructure plans, and the recent, I think, at $100 billion or something like that has been planned, and suburban rail loop, which is planned in Victoria, is one of our target lists. So Australia is a place for infrastructure. I think the next decade or so it will be the happening place in the world forum, if I can put it right that way. And L&T being in the it can be on the forefront, having its 7-8 decades of experience through some of the smart practices which we have developed indigenously here. Yeah, that's what we can offer right now, and I think it is a unique set of skill set what we have here, and yeah, that's it. Thank you.
Anand, did you have anything to say?
No, actually we are a part associated with the pre-activity and post-activity for the construction industry, transportation infrastructure. So naturally, along this, the projects, when the projects are there, we are already there. And of course, we have got a skill set of engineering, design, and consultancy. And that's what I told you that we are now ready to take up a project which starts from concept to the asset management till the end of the project. To that level, it doesn't stop at when the construction is finished. So
thanks
to
very
that
much.
extent, yeah, we can take.
Thank you. My last question is to Professor Basakaran from Deakin University. What specific areas require attention or priority in international research partnerships in advanced manufacturing?
Thank you, Jim. And I think for any international research partnership, the key aspect is to get a clear understanding of the priorities between the partners and what is the purpose of the partnership and how do we value add bringing these partnerships together. The other important aspect is also to understand the social and cultural values of international partners. And once you get the good understanding, the partnership can work very well. And particularly in the manufacturing or the future manufacturing side, how do we bring the multidisciplinary or interdisciplinary skill set together, which requires, and just as a good example, the future sustainable infrastructure development, whether it's transportation or whether it's water or whether it's energy, require sensors, IoTs, data science, engineering, and also to some extent the social aspect as well. So how do we bring these different skill sets? And one of the key aspects as a university we are interested with partner with the industry is how do we produce future graduates or future engineers who has the appropriate skill set to work in the smart manufacturing industry. So for that, my request to the industry partners is come on board to be part of the developing the next generation of future engineers who has the right skill sets to take up this smart manufacturing in the future.
Thanks very much for that. I'd like now to focus as we close this very, very rich dialogue and forum to ask Mrs. Reeth Balvani to give a vote of thanks. Now, Reeth herself is a very successful businesswoman with the owner and director of MedSurge. So you will see from the screen that Vishal is putting in, a very appropriate person to give the vote of thanks. She actually lives and breathes the business-to-business dealings. So over to you, Reeth.
Thank you, Jim. Good afternoon, everyone, and good evening. Thank you all for this very informative session on the smart manufacturing, so important to the economies of Australia and India today. So on behalf of AIBC National Chair, Mr. Jim Verghese, Ms. Ravneet Pava, AIBC Victoria Chair, Mr. Vasan Srinivasan, Victorian Patron, Mr. Vish Vishwanathan, National Chair for Make in India Chapter, it is my great privilege to present the vote of thanks. I wish to thank all the following eminent keynote speakers and panelists for their excellent presentations and participations. Mr. Ains Wilcock, Chief Executive Officer, Australia Industry Group, Ms. Michelle Wade, Commissioner, South Asia, Global Victoria, Mr. Michael Shah, National Director, Industry Advanced Manufacturing Growth Center, Mr. Rakesh Arora, Head Proposal Heavy Civil Infrastructure L&T Construction, Mr. Anand Pandey, CEO L&T Infrastructure Engineering Limited, Mr. Narayan Manurath Venikar, Manager Business Development Heavy Civil Infrastructure L&T Construction, and lastly, Professor Bhas Bhaskaran, Pro Vice Chancellor, International Research Partnerships, Office of Deputy Vice Chancellor, Research, Deakin University. We thank you all these speakers for their immense contribution to this webinar today. I also want to thank all the participants from Australia and India who have joined us on this webinar. I also want to acknowledge the great support by our back office team, which is headed by Windy Farrell, Karishma, Vishal, and Sam. My apologies if I have missed everyone, but it's a great evening and we look forward to seeing you all to participate in the future AIBC events. Thank you, Jim.
Thank you, Ruth. And as we finish off this very excellent forum, I'd like each of our participants here on this dialogue to give me 3 words, just 3 words that sum up this strategic forum. So let me start with Ravneet. Ravneet, your 3 words?
I mean, there's a lot to say, but I think collaboration, innovation, and opportunity.
Excellent. Vish, your 3 words?
Identify collaborative strategies.
Michelle Wade, your 3 words?
I've got 4, but they all begin with
4
S,
is fine.
so I think that's
4
good.
is fine. Give me 4.
Specialization, strengths, and shared success.
Excellent. Michael Sharp, I know you're in that car over there. You're probably getting a lot of good inputs.
So I'm going to start with innovation because we've seen a lot of that this year, haven't we? So here from the mobile Zoom studio, my other 2 words would be collaboration, which is certainly the key driver, and leadership. We can all share in that and really drive this transformation.
Thank you for that. And Ines Willocks from AIG, your 3 words?
I think, Jim, collaboration has to be one. That's the centerpiece. So collaboration, innovation is another one, and confidence.
Confidence, yes, that's good. Very good. Now let's go to our colleagues in L&T, and Rakesh, your 3 words.
I will say that IoT, that international Internet of Things or digitalization is the new mantra, we can say, to be successful. Yeah.
And Anand, your 3 words?
I would say pilot project for collaboration. We need to identify pilot project for collaboration.
And Narayan, your 3 words?
I would like to say to be at 3D, which is nothing but digital, defines the development.
Okay, that's good. And Professor, your 3 words?
I would say partnership, innovation, and digital technology.
Thank you. That's pretty good. Reith, in case you thought you could escape, your 3 words.
You're on mute.
Reith.
Sorry.
Your 3 words? Just
Yes,
whatever comes to you. It's a strategic forum. Yeah.
Yes, sorry for that. Collaboration, of course, innovation, and growth.
Excellent. And can I say from where I'm sitting, I was actually thought 3 words that were very good. Definitely collaboration. But I also thought the words of supply chain risk, smart sovereignty, and sustainability. were also very, very good words that we used during the course of this webinar. Now, as we try and wrap up, I just thought, since we are running in a very relaxed forum, I just thought I'd ask Ravneet to share her perspective now as to where we are before I formally close the proceedings.
Thanks, Jim. And I've really enjoyed the discussion. And what really does come out is that there is enough opportunity for us to really figure out the what and how. I think governments have policies and governments have funding opportunities. So we've got that in order. Industry have needs, desires, and wants and outcomes. We've got that here, and with specifications like Michelle mentioned. And then we've got universities that can collaborate and deliver. So I really think that we've got this entire discussion going forward quite intensely. What would be really good is if of this industry forum discussion, we can connect with people, like-minded organizations, and come up with a project that might take the next step of engagement or collaboration. That would be a really good outcome. And I would encourage Deakin University, L&T, and other people on the panel to really collaborate, talk, and see where we can go forward with this. Also, if we can develop a paper, Vish, I don't know if you think it's a good idea, just with some recommendations about possible collaborations in smart manufacturing to both the ministries. I think that would be a useful thing as well.
That's very good. And Manjeet Singh, the Vice President of AIBC Victoria, did your 3 words.
Well, thank you. Now, look, I agree with the collaboration being the driver, and leadership certainly is in there, and innovation has been mentioned. But I would like to definitely add a bit of needs, passion on the MOUs, and to drive this further. And that's where we all as Victoria looking forward to it very much. Thank you.
And Vish, our National Industry Chair for Make in India, your last words?
I'm extremely happy about the outcomes of today's session, because all of us are talking about one single language, which is the collaboration. And what we mean, the next step is going to be a busier year for everyone, including AIBC. And that's where I would like to just support this case of two people who said, one is Ravneet, who said that we all discuss and identify one project, which is a very clearly said from L&T team as a pilot project. So we'll come out with a pilot project discussion with L&T, Mr. Bhaskaran, and also Mr. Ines Willox from the Australian Industry Group, and Michael Sharp. So we will identify a couple of projects in different, and also Michelle Wade, because she's very important to come from the Victorian scene as well. And then we will identify a couple of projects which we can deliver as pilot projects next year for smart manufacturing. And that will be very, very satisfying to all of us.
Thank you very much, Vish. And on that note, I'm delighted that we are ending exactly on time, which is very good. I'm very keen to. And can I thank each one of you here today for a very rich forum, a great dialogue, great questions, and the questions that have not been answered, we will certainly answer them after this. So have a great rest of the evening. Namaste, namaskaram.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.